This is not black girl magic, but black girl tragic. Hello, good people. It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of the buckets. And what are we talking about today? Fani Willis. Black girl tragic. Let me explain something. If you've been a Todd Thinks follower, if you've been a part of the Todd Thinks community for any length of time, and you couldn't have been that long because I kind of really got rolling here this past summer. But here's the main thing. You know that I have been on this subject of why the left loves black women. I have said it over and over again. I said it back this summer. I said it again in this fall. I made reference to it the other day when I did my video on Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is not a black female, not that I know of, but he is nonetheless in the vein of the black female, because Stephen A. Smith, in my opinion, is kind of a just above average, slightly better than mediocre journalist who effectively is campaigning to be a more prominent figure because he has or is adopting all the right political views and basically, in my view, I hate to use this strong word, but kind of prostituting himself for fame and money. I find it unfortunate because I think Stephen A. Smith could be a force for good. And at one point, he was a fairly reasonable figure in the media space. But now he's become something else. But the whole point of the main themes that I've been talking about is to explain how we are being exploited as black people. We're being exploited by the left. And the left loves them some black women because if you attack a black woman or if you call out a black woman, you are by definition punching down, according to the left's, kind of their little doctrine or their ideology, which in my view is really not a thing. But let's talk about Fani Willis. Fani Willis recently has been discovered to have been doing some pretty shisty things, some pretty shady things, some impropriety. Now, you got to think about this. A woman in her position who they put up to the task of prosecuting the former president of the United States on RICO charges because of some supposed collusion to overthrow the U.S. government and to throw out the results of a free and fair election, the freest and most fair and most upfront election in the history of elections, which of course is complete nonsense. But in any case, they knew that this was a Hail Mary, no matter how you spin it. The idea that Donald Trump is going to go to prison, when I think it's reasonable to assume that there were shenanigans afoot when it comes to Donald Trump's election, and particularly in Georgia. I actually did a video on it many years ago where in State Farm Arena, they alleged, as a matter of fact, I'll link that video, they alleged that they had to stop counting the votes in State Farm Arena because a pipe burst. Come to find out, there was no such thing that happened. Then they told the poll watchers to go home because they would stop counting for the night. When everyone went home, they continued counting. Now, this was the sort of stuff that is documented. Everyone knows that it's true. And it's 100% suspect. And there was good reason to believe that Donald J. Trump was defrauded in Georgia with respect to the election. But that's another issue. We're not going to relitigate that today. We're going to talk about how Fani Willis is really what she did in response to being exposed for her corruption and basically hiring her boyfriend, who was a married man, mind you, hiring her boyfriend to operate in an area of law that he doesn't really even understand. And I want to take just so you understand this controversy, she actually paid her boyfriend, effectively, and she doesn't even deny that she had a relationship with him. She paid her boyfriend more money than they paid an expert in RICO cases to prosecute this case when this gentleman has no experience with these types of cases. Let's have a quick look.
To get him to interfere Todd Pyro, at this point, we're waiting to see if Mills has heard back from the governor. Your reaction?
You can hire a special attorney who is versed in a particular area of the law for situations like this. But typically that attorney has an extensive history, in this instance, in RICO cases, right? The attorney that was hired, i.e. the paramour, alleged paramour, if you will, of one Fani Willis, has no experience in that, has no experience in trying cases. And so you have to ask the question, why? And then once you get the assumed answer, why, you have to get to the heart of the corruption. And if I'm Trump's attorney, I am playing this card because out of all the cases, they're all politically motivated, but if I'm ranking them by the ones that Trump legally has the most concern about, it's this one. So if he can knock it out now, I think it would be to his benefit.
And Cheryl, to make the connection to her benefiting from that higher pay for Nathan Wade, apparently there are reports they've gone to the Bahamas and Florida and all of these trips where, you know, they're connecting the dots that he was being paid more and they're using the money for that. And I know that Corey Mills mentioned all of this in the letter. Have you heard back, Congressman, from the governor of Georgia?
All right, so you get the idea, or as black conservative would say, you seen that, you heard that. All right. So here's the deal. This woman, Fani Willis, had a sexual relationship with a then still married man. Now, I don't know what the status of, likely the case is that her and this gentleman and his estranged wife were probably separated, or I don't know what the situation is. All I know is that the guy was still married. And the interesting thing about this is that this woman, after having been exposed for this obvious corruption where there's all kinds of conflicts of interest here, she hires this man, she pays him more money, he has no experience in the area of law that she's hiring him to perform duties in, and then he takes her around on these trips. It makes it look, at least on the surface, even if it isn't true, that she hired him for her own purposes, right? And that there's some home cooking going on and that this isn't about the law, right? So after being exposed and being, having these things alleged about her, where does she run? Does she go to the media? Does she do an interview on NBC, ABC? I'm sure any of the major media outlets would love to have sat down with her and to have a chat with the black girl, the black female, one of the first most successful DAs. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know she's obviously a district attorney, which is not an insignificant role in any level of government. I'm sure they would have loved to talk to her. She's prosecuting Trump. I mean, they would have gave her whatever floor or space she wanted. But where does she go? She goes to a black church. And I find this so interesting that she goes to a black church to basically, I mean, you gotta assume that this is what she views as home court. You go to a place where you feel like the surroundings are amenable to whatever objective or agendas that you have, right? So she's viewing this as a safe place, as a place where she has some support, which I find interesting because she's having an illicit sexual relationship with a man who is still married, and the church is the first place she goes. This is so bizarre to me. This, in my view, is the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I know we just had MLK Day just this past Monday, and I didn't do a video on it, but I wanted to because what most people don't know is that Martin Luther King is actually not a Christian, and I don't say that with any glee or anything to that effect. Martin Luther King was a political person, a left-wing political person who used Christianity and Christian language to forward a leftist agenda. Now, obviously, his push for racial equality was something that was admirable and was obviously a positive impact on our nation and on our culture. But the roots of his basically bankrupt Christian worldview, shrouded in basically his political activism shrouded in Christian language, could only result in what we see now in Georgia in Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Raphael Warlock, I call him, not Warnock, Raphael Warlock, is now the person who is in charge there, or basically who's the pastor there. And here he calls abortion healthcare. But this is what you get. You get a bunch of people who actually don't know God, and they use the church as their bully pulpit for their political activism. So let's look at Fani Wilson run to the black church to basically shield herself from criticism for her immoral actions.
You did not tell me as a woman of color, it would not matter what I did. My motive, my talent, my ability, and my character would be constantly attacked. First thing they say, oh, she gonna play the race card now. But no, God, isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question one?
No, God. Who talks like that? Who says that? But no, God. So performative, so shameful. She's gonna stand up in church, and not one person asks her, "Baby, would you marry to that young man?" Y'all see all the old mothers sitting back there in the choir stand. One of them old mothers should have went there, "Baby, now I understand you running around with this young fella. I understand y'all not married. When's y'all gonna tie the knot?" Right? The old mothers where I'm from, the black church that I grew up in, the old mothers would be having none of that. They were like, sis, you need to come on, sit down. You need to come on down to the altar and get saved. We're going to pray for you with my all. Like, get my anointing all. We're going to pray for this young lady to stop fornicating because, God don't like that. We got to be holy. See, that's what the old mothers from the black church that I grew up in, that's what they would do. But in this context, the black church, particularly in Georgia, now I'm not going to indict everyone in Georgia, but the black church has become basically overrun with political activists and very few actual Christ followers. And I find that to be quite pathetic. But back to my original theme. I find it so interesting that the first thing she does is try to shield herself from criticism by talking about race. She says, "Oh, I hired a white female, I hired a white gentleman, and then this other black gentleman, but they only talking about the black one." Oh, wait, were you having sex with the white female? Did she take you to the Bahamas? Were you having sex with the white fella? Well, see, the main thing is that you paid more to a guy who had never tried these kind of cases, and you were having sex with him. So maybe it's not that he was black. Just going out on a limb here. Maybe it's not the fact that he was black that they called you out. Maybe it's because you were having an illicit relationship with him and benefiting from the money that you were paying him, because in kind, or basically in return, you have to know, he's spending money on you, it stands to reason that maybe that could have been a motivation. So, but the fact that they let her sit there in the pulpit and tell those lies and to bring up that nonsense is to me quite tragic. Fani Willis needs to stop. And what black people need to learn right now is that we need to stop falling for this stuff. I want to put this out there. I fully concede this is completely speculative, but I just find it so interesting. She is the black female, right? They probably have had this in the works forever, right? Ever since 2020, the election was over. They put her, I think she became the DA, or she started running for the DA. I don't know exactly when she became the DA, but the point is that why did they choose her to prosecute Trump? Just think about it. Trump, how do they want to paint Trump? They want to paint Trump as some bully, a racist, right? And what better person could they choose to prosecute Trump as a bully or a racist than to put a black female as the person who's prosecuting her, and to put any opposition that he might pose to her as more racism and more bully tactics and more basically Trump being Trump, as they might put it. But this this whole RICO case or whatever, it's a Hail Mary on its face, right? And here's the speculative part that I wanted to come back to. Doesn't it seem like they would put someone like her up to this task, knowing that she basically would not succeed, and to be able to say if and when they lose, because they're more likely to lose, oh, it's because Donald Trump, and this is more evidence that America doesn't respect black people and black females in particular. It feels very much like that, because this is very much in the vein of the sort of tactics of the left, where they put her up to a task that they knew she would almost certainly fail at. And this just feels very much like she's got this role because she's got the right skin color and she's got the right gender and she's got the right politics, very much in the vein of Claudine Gay. And we need to just get hip to this pattern. We need to stop falling for this. The black female, the black person who is unqualified, they put in these roles, they set them up to fail. And then when they fail, they get to say, oh, it's because of racism, sexism. And I find it quite pathetic that in a building that is called the church, where it's supposed to be the house of God, they let this woman having an illicit sexual relationship with a man get up there and defend herself and shield herself from criticism based on the fake charges of racism. I find that quite pathetic. But I am interested to hear what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments. If you like what I'm doing here at Todd Thinks, please subscribe. Matter of fact, hit that like button right now. Go ahead and hit that sub, and make sure you tune in next time I put up a video. Till next time, my friends, God bless you.